Hi, Dawn Lewis here with an interactive card using the Wiper Surprise die set by Mama Elephant, and I want to talk you through this die set. I've cut one front, one back, and all the wipers, but when you're making a card, you only need to cut one. I want to show you some options that you have when you make this card. There are a few videos around showing you how to cut the front with a cloud or a landscape die, which does need to be up high, not down low. First, we're going to talk about the card base. I used 200-gram cardstock, and I did have to go and rescore those lines. It wasn't quite enough when I cut them, but it did show me very clearly where the cut needed to be. So both of these pieces are folded exactly the same way. So you fold the first fold in towards the card and the second fold out towards in the opposite direction. So you end up, normally I'd say with a Z fold, but in this case it's more like an S fold. Both pieces are folded the same way. So you don't have to fold one in one direction and one in the other direction. Fold them both identically and then you'll have two pieces that match up the same. But we flip them, and this is what makes the mechanism so the card moves in and out. So how clever is that? Now I've got a piece over on the left, but you could equally have that piece over on the right. To stick it together, you need a strong adhesive. This is an interactive card, and when you're making them, you need a good strong adhesive. I'm using double-sided tape, but a good liquid adhesive also is definitely going to do the job. I'm going to start the construction just by sticking one piece down. So you can see I've stuck the fold to the left there. It's kind of in the middle now, and we want to concentrate on that first strip there. It's really important with these wiper pieces. When you die cut this out, the little elephant will emboss on this piece. I'm just coloring over it with pencil. It's hard to see, but hopefully there you can see the little embossed elephant. There's also going to be one or possibly two folds scored into your pop-up wiper piece. It depends which piece you choose to use. You really do want to burnish that, like really get it in and reinforce it well with a bone folder. The elephants are important. You've got to know where their little feet are, because where their little feet are is very important in the way you put it together. You also need to make sure that when you fold that score line, you fold it down and away from the elephant. Okay, so you can see me demonstrating where the folds go. So they go push sort of down and away from the elephant. This first panel, this little between one score line and the next, you want to make sure that that little line underneath the elephant's feet, and the best way I've heard it described is that the feet are on the ground so that it works properly. And how far down or up you piece this depends how much of the wiper will show. These pieces look identical, but you'll notice that this one, there's a little more distance in it, and so the pop-up is actually further away to the left of that score line. This piece is not going to be away from the score line at all. It's just straight up and down. So when you choose this one, your pop-up's going to be right on that fold. This piece is going to pop up next to the fold, so you can see there it's exactly to the left of that score line, and it might look identical to this piece, but allow me to fold these down and show you the difference between them. The one on the left goes to a point, but the one on the right, there's a gap in between each of those score lines. So you can see when you stick your little elephant down, that pop-up is further to the left of this score line. So there's all sorts of reasons that these pieces are the way they are, and your adhesive is going to go where the elephant is. I'm going to demonstrate a few things with this cute teddy from Stackable Cuties, also by Mama Elephant. Now you can see that where I put this wiper in the fold there depends how much of the wiper you actually see. Also, the size of the piece and where you place it is going to depend on how it functions. Now, the teddy bear, it's small, but what if you want to use something bigger like this orange circle? You can see that it's in the middle there. It has to be in that panel. It needs to not interfere with the score line, which this doesn't. Plus, when you flip it up, it must not interfere with that first score line. It needs to be all over to the left. So you can see it doesn't interfere on the left and it doesn't interfere on the inside. So this is whether it's going to pop up and be stored. Now, what if you want something bigger like this turquoise circle? Well, you can see if I put this here, it interferes with that score line. It goes over it. It's not going to pop up and down and store itself within the card. Here, it also interferes with this score line. And so this is not a worthy candidate for the pop-up card. It's just too big for a Wiper Surprise die. So I hope that that is helpful, and I think now let's actually put the whole thing together and make an entire project. I've left the Copic colouring in this one. I'm colouring just with 4 different markers, and I'm colouring on my Monty colour copy paper rather than Express It blending card. It takes Copic markers pretty okay, and if you don't have Express It blending card, this will definitely do in a pinch. However, it doesn't really blend the way I want it to, like the blending card would. But, you know, I wanted to concentrate more on the construction and what each piece does in this Wiper Surprise die set rather than the colouring. So the other thing that I wanted to let you know is, well, let's talk about envelopes. What kind of envelope can you put this Wiper Surprise card in? Well, for us Aussies, surprisingly, it will fit in a C6 envelope. A C6 envelope is kind of the small one that you send notes up to the school in. Well, that's what I use them for. If you fold a piece of A4 paper in half and then in half in the opposite direction and you get that small rectangle, that's the C6 envelope. It's the size of a quarter of a piece of A4 cardstock, I guess. So this Wiper Surprise card will fit inside that envelope. Those envelopes are inexpensive, they're easy to get. And now we're going to move on to putting it all together. I stamped out some of the balloons from Stackable Cuties and the elephants from Stackable Cuties as well. And I've just used a dye ink and popped them onto that front panel. And I'm using a 0.1 Copic multi-liner to draw little bows and tie the balloons like they're tied to the elephant's trunk. I thought it was really, really, really cute. I'm just keeping it simple because it's all about the card construction. Because I didn't use a landscape or a cloud or wave dies on the front of mine, I've just stuck a piece of pattern paper on that was left over on my desk. A piece of cardstock that is a little larger than my piece of white cardstock that I've coloured and added my balloons to. A little bit of black cardstock on the left and a little red, just with a little border all the way around, and now the front of our card's decorated. On the Wiper Surprise, I've stamped the Happy B-Day speech bubble, also from Stackable Cuties, in a red dye ink, and where you place it will depend how much of it shows. I did tweak it just a little so that it was showing properly above, and you can see when that card opens and closes. I peeled off the backing paper. I just stuck the right hand side together the same way I stuck the left hand side together, and that's it. That's the construction. Now, the first time around, it might be a bit confusing, but do persist. The second time, you will find it so much easier to make this card. It's a delightful surprise for adults, for children, for people of all ages. Who doesn't love an interactive card? Am I right? Now, if you are looking for Mama Elephant in Australia, you can find it at dawnlewis.com.au. I will link to everything below, and you can find all of the details on the blog post, which will also be linked below. This is the Wiper Surprise die set. I do hope you have fun with it and enjoy this interactive card. I also hope that you have a very crafty day, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.